Hey everybody, what's up and welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Liz and this is Craig and Crime Time, where I'm your host. I sit down, I talk about true crime. Sometimes there's art involved. I'm thinking about doing a whole rebranding of this channel, but just bear with me. Because I've been enjoying more of just the sit down part. I have a chaotic life outside of doing all my research and doing everything for YouTube, so having time to create things isn't always something that I can do because I am a wife, I am a mother, I work 24/7, so I don't always have time to create everything. But anywho, enough of my little ramble. Today we're going to be talking about Christine Paolilla. Basically, the reason why I wanted to include this case is because she let her love of her boyfriend and her, literally her drug-influenced mind cloud her judgment and killed 4 people. So, that's why I wanted to include this in my Valentine's Day extravaganza. I don't know which day this is going to fall on. I do apologize. It's been kind of scattered. Life happens. Shit happens. That's why they make toilets. Literally, that's basically what has happened. So here I am. You're welcome. Here's another true crime case. So Christine Paolilla, she was the daughter to her parents, Lori and Charles. Lori was a stay-at-home mom and her dad was a construction worker. They lived in New York. So her dad ended up passing away during an accident on a construction site. And following the death of her dad, her mom ended up turning to drugs to kind of soothe herself, to kind of forget. And she would lose custody of Christine and Christine's brother. So the kids went to live with their grandparents. When Christine was in kindergarten, she would be diagnosed with alopecia. So if you don't know what alopecia is, basically it means that it caused her to lose hair, her hair, her eyebrow hair, her eyelashes. And as a result of this hair loss, she had to wear wigs. She had poor vision, which that tends to be a subsequent underlying thing when it comes to alopecia. So she had to wear super thick glasses. Christine was bullied for this by her classmates, and she lacked self-confidence. Eventually, after some time goes by, Christine is reunited with her mother, and her mom overcomes her drug addiction, and she would remarry to Christine's stepfather. So this is when they moved to Clear Lake City, Texas, which is a suburb of Houston. I know I'm spending a lot of time in Texas. I hope you enjoy all of these Texas crimes because they're fucking nuts. Anywho, so Christine is enrolled in Clear Lake High School. This is when she's befriended by 2 students, Rachel Kolarudis and Tiffany Rowell. If I say Rachel's last name wrong, I apologize. Yeah. They decide to give her a makeover, and it's with this makeover that gives Christine a newfound wow, I'm beautiful type thing. She ends up being voted Miss Irresistible in high school. You know how you have those fun little things I got voted most artistic, and yeah, I think that was about it. I'm actually really happy that I only was voted for one thing. But anyhow, so her friends decided to give her a makeover to help her feel better about herself. Well, after this, Christine meets this guy. His name is Chris Snyder. He's a 21-year-old. He's also known to have a frequent drug use, and he has a criminal record. Now, Christine's friends and her parents, her mom and her stepdad, don't approve of him. I mean, would you approve of somebody like that that's dating your daughter? I'll get there when it comes to my kids, but still, meh. So Christine ends up still seeing him anyway. Christine's mom, Lori, ends up recalling when they ask her about how Christine was with her friends and with Chris. She says that she noticed that Christine she was being isolated by Chris, and especially from like her friends. And Christine indicated that she had that her daughter, so how do I say this? Christine indicated that she had been raped and that she was a victim of physical abuse. Well, come to find out, it's Chris and Christine were physically abusive to each other, and their relationship was severely dysfunctional. There was one night where Christine was at Chris's house. He yells at her to get out. He doesn't want her there. They have this giant fight, and she says to him, "If you try to kick me out again, I will kill you and your family." And she sleeps on the lawn, like in front of his house. Like, if that's not a severe dysfunctional relationship, I don't know what is. So they stay together, and this is all in 2003, by the way. So literally, like, they meet each other during, I'm guessing it's the spring semester of school in 2003. So in the spring. Come during the summer. So, okay. The actual murder takes place in July of 2003. So Christine and Chris went to Tiffany Rowell's house. So Tiffany lived by herself. Her dad had just moved out because he moved in with his girlfriend. So Tiffany lived in this house all by herself. It came to be like the party house because here she is. She has her own house. She's like, she doesn't have any parents there. She can do whatever she wants. So all the friends tended to go over there. So this day in particular, Rachel was there. Tiffany's boyfriend Marcus was there, and Marcus's cousin Adelbert was there, and Adelbert was known to have been dating Rachel at the time. So according to Christine, her and Chris had only planned on stealing drugs that were hidden in the house. But apparently Chris got into an argument with Marcus, and that led to the shootings of the other three. All four victims were shot multiple times. Rachel, however, is the only one that moved in the spot where she was. So Tiffany and Adelbert were on the couch, like relaxed. They were watching something, and Marcus was on the floor. So it's clear that they were hanging out. They were watching something. Rachel, which she was closer to Christine than Tiffany was. Rachel, there was signs that she was trying to move away, and the phone, when it's found, it shows that she dialed 911. So she tried to dial 911. Tried. Well, Rachel is the only one as well that her cause of death is not gunshot wounds. Her cause of death is blunt force trauma with the subsequent of a gunshot wound. So Rachel was pistol whipped. She was struck multiple times by the butt of a .38 caliber revolver that ended up like breaking her skull. So the other thing too is that Tiffany and Rachel were both shot repeatedly in the genitals, and this gives a sign of a sexual jealousy. So that was when cops first find these bodies, they see this and they know that it's somebody that's envious of them in a way that only somebody close to them would be. Christine? So another thing to know too is that initially police thought it was drug related. So Adelbert and Marcus had a past in drugs. And literally, Adelbert had just moved to Clear Lake City to get away from the violence of like the north side of Houston and to get away from the life of selling drugs, basically. So, all right, where were we? I had to grab my laundry, life. Oh yeah, I was talking about Adelbert. He literally just moved to Clear Lake City to get away from this. He wasn't even in Clear Lake City for 2 weeks before he was killed. So the only evidence that the police had was from a visual sketch. Basically, one of the neighbors saw two people wearing all black. One of them was a female, and the other one was a male. The female had abnormally large eyes, and they were walking down the road at about 3 o'clock or 3:15. Another one of the neighbors heard banging, but thought it was somebody working on a house. Now, this could have been at the time the gunshots that ended up killing the other three, and obviously, like the murder itself, this is what it could have been. But, so, after, Chris and Christine commit the murder, basically, they clean up, and then he brings Christine to her job at Walgreens, where she worked at the makeup counter. Right? So, the case goes cold. This happens in 2003. Case goes cold. Chris and Christine, they ended a relationship in 2004. This is after Chris is put in jail in Kentucky for car theft in particular. Christine ends up going to a rehab in Kerrville, Texas. And it's here where she meets her future husband, Justin Roth. His name is Stanley Roth, but he goes by Justin. So, Justin is a heroin user. The drug of choice that Christine likes is heroin as well. They begin a relationship which, right there, you don't start a relationship when you're in recovery. But, anywho, so they begin a relationship and they ended up getting married in March of 2005. And it's around this time when Christine finally gets the money from her dad's life insurance. This is about $360,000 in the trust fund that was left from her dad's death. So Christine ended up using a portion of this money to buy an apartment for her and Justin. Well, in July of 2005, so 2 years after the murder, Christine sees something on the news about this case still being unsolved. She becomes so upset, freaks out. She sees the sketches of the suspects and she's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. She confesses to her husband about what happened. Then they go into hiding. So, in November of 2005, they were living in a motel room in San Antonio. And for the next 8 months, they stayed holed up in this room, shooting heroin and doing cocaine. July 8th, 2006 rolls around. Police receive a tip via Crime Stoppers regarding the murders of the four. This caller, in particular, states that he knows somebody that looks like that sketch and knows about a murder that's similar to the four that died. When they ask who it is, this person says Christine Paolilla. Well, Paolilla apparently, while in rehab, admitted that she was a participant in the murder of her four friends. So police end up tracking down Christine to the motel room. When they enter this motel room, it is a gruesome scene. So they've been holed up in this hotel room. There's hypodermic needles and blood and moldy food everywhere. It is estimated as well that they were spending about $1,000 a day on heroin to feed their addiction. Yeah. So they arrest Christine and Justin. They find about 70 vials of heroin in that room. So, I mean, they're arrested on drug charges as well. After they're arrested, this is when Justin literally just like lets it all out. He says that Christine confessed to him about the murder and how she was an active participant. And he also stated that Christine had like gone back in the house after the initial shooting. Went back in because she feared that they weren't dead. So when she went back in, she saw Rachel trying to get away and starting to dial 911. This is when she took the gun because they had run out of bullets, took it, and pistol whipped her. Yeah. So initially, Christine denied the killing, denied having anything to do with the killing. But eventually, she admitted to participating, but placed all the blame on Chris Snyder. Poor Chris. So, July 21st, 2006, Christine and Chris were both charged with capital murder. Now, Chris had yet to be apprehended at this point, and he never would be. The reason I say this is because Chris moved to South Carolina in June of 2006 to live with a woman he met online. He was happy, he was in love, and he wanted to move in with her. Well, after Christine's arrest in July, one of Chris's family members called him to inform him that the police had issued a warrant for his arrest in relation to the murders. Now, the cops in Greenville acted on a tip that Chris may have committed suicide. Well, the police searched, and they searched an area where he was last seen, and his decomposing body was found in a heavily wooded area on August 5th of 2006. It was later determined that Chris died due to an overdose of prescription medication. So, Christine was held on $500,000 bond, and she was considered a flight risk. She had evaded it for so long, holed herself up in a motel room, so they felt that she was not just a danger to herself, but to society. So, on October 13th of 2008, Christine was convicted of all 4 counts of capital murder. As she was a juvenile offender at the time of the killing, she was spared the death penalty. So the following day, so October 14th of 2008, she was sentenced to life in prison. Christine filed an appeal in November of 2008 on the grounds that the trial... So the court abused its discretion in setting the amount of $500,000. Basically, this was all denied because they were just trying to do anything to get all of this thrown away. So Christine currently is in the Mountain View unit in Gatesville, Texas, and she will be eligible for parole in 2046, and at that time she will be the age of 60. So that, my friends, is the case of Christine Paolilla. I will say too that Rachel's dad, I believe it was Rachel's dad, he couldn't let it go that his daughter died. It was either Rachel or Tiffany's dad. It was one of the dads. They could not let it go that their daughter died. So he was the one that made sure that their case was still recirculating. So when Christine saw all that stuff, which then started the downfall, if you will, of the dominoes, once the first one fell, that's what it was. He made sure that the sketches were put on billboards. It was everywhere. And it made her freak out. It made Christine freak out. Because she was just shit. Now, if somebody puts 2 and 2 together that that's me, I'm fucked. And basically that's what happened. So. But yeah, that's the case of Christine Paolilla and the tragic death also of Chris Snyder. And yeah. I hope you guys learned something from this case. This case is really will make you wonder as to what goes through the mind of an addict, because we don't because we're not in their shoes, we don't know. exactly what goes on in their head. Like me being I've been in recovery for years. I don't openly talk about this. I'm a very closed off person. My husband knows this. It's hard to open up when it comes to your own personal struggles, especially with this stuff, because you fear that you're going to get caught, you're going to get blamed for everything. And unless you know exactly how they feel in that time of need, then it's hard to fully understand as to why they do things they do. Like, and to this day, scientists just like want to know why, but it's, unless you are in their shoes medically and physically, emotionally, you will never know. But that, my friends, I hope you learned something from this case, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, you guys.